Well, folks, 1 week later than expected, we are back here for the historical Oracle. Last week, the great Oracle of Wrestling planned a double shot. There was much excitement. I ruined said double shot. Cost you booking money, brother. Cost you
Yeah.
booking money. Took,
No
took
need to
money out of your pocket, bro.
apologize. No need to apologize for such things. Um, it's always possible I could have destroyed the platform in a double shot. Maybe we'll get to that at some point.
Yeah.
But maybe in some ways it was we saved late night Grin from that disastrous
Maybe.
3 hours or so.
I think I'm the one that's come closest to actual destruction with the Adam Cole, the Adam Cole night, where you tried to save me that night. Remember? You know,
Oh yeah.
quite the
Well,
beach break in Cleveland. It is what it is. Anyway, we are here, March 1996. Oracle. We've done some small talk here, but just for the sake of politeness, as being a Brit, how are you this evening?
I'm well. I
Good.
have just finished my teriyaki chicken dinner
Yes, you
that
have.
Joe enjoyed watching me eat.
Factual.
Sure.
Yes, very much
Um,
so.
I had a biscuit, also known as a cookie in the United States. Uh, uh, and I have the NBA playoffs on in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, it's the first half, so there shouldn't be any
Yeah.
dramatic reactions, although that was quite the addition to the show last night, and that was fun.
We're gonna get there, I assume, right? Probably by the end of this, we'll be
Yeah,
getting more play-by-play.
yeah, could be. Could be calling John Morant hitting a buzzer beater or something. You
Yeah.
never know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
By the way, I want to give some love. He may not. I think it was Justin. Justin, if you hear this late, I hope this pops you. He just commented on episode 17 of the Late Night Grin, and I had like a panic attack at the idea of people watching old episodes of the Late Night Grin. I was like, "Oh no, that's a bad idea." That came to mind. Chat, I hope you're well here on this Thursday evening. I hope you're enjoying Impact Wrestling, which has kicked off famously,
hmm.
the red hot wrestling program of the week. We have a lot to talk about, Oracle. So let's get to it. It is March 1996. In many ways, this is kind of, you could argue this is like the biggest month we've done because it's Mania month. Mania is always, it's
Mm-hmm.
mega, right? So last time out, I believe, yes, ECW and WCW split the kind of wins as they were two each. But this is WWF's month. In theory, set the stage best you can. Obviously, you and I know that the results don't quite pan out the way I just alluded to, but set the stage
Sure.
best you can for where we're at here in March 1996.
So we're in full on Mania build.
Yep.
WrestleMania is on March 31st, 96, to the final day of March.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole month is full on Mania build. It's actually good. It's actually really solid. There are some good episodes of Raw there. It's just
Yep.
ECW had some really good stuff.
Right.
Nitro actually had a couple of good episodes here and a couple of not so good episodes.
Mm.
Um, and Nitro really has a rough spring. I'm almost through April, and we'll get to that in a few weeks. But the
Yeah.
spring in WCW is rough. The spring before the Great Storm is not something that's
Mm-hmm.
highlighted very much.
Yep.
Um, Probably because people want to forget about it. Um, but WCW, of course, is building to the very famous, or infamous would probably be the more apt
Mm.
description, uh, alliance to end Hulkamania versus Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage in the dreaded Doomsday Cage match that for some reason is right there in the middle of the entrance, right there at the entrance.
Yes.
The ECW, now I sound like Bret Hart,
The
um,
ECW.
uh, has has uh, has the big ass Extreme Bash event, which is a
Mm-hmm.
weekend event that takes place over 2 nights. First
Yeah.
show in the Lost Battalion Hall in Queens, New York. Second show at the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Weekend of March 8th and March 9th, which saw the final matches of Cactus Jack and ECW
Yes.
before he goes on to his money-making run in the World Wrestling Federation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, his bread-winning run. Um, lots to talk about. Uh,
Yes.
Probably In some ways, other than maybe the opening month, and I don't know, this might be number one so far.
Kind of feels that way looking
Yeah.
at the notes. Okay, well, let's get started. You kind of alluded to it there. ECW dominant again, another clean sweep here. They've got a couple of leads right in this process in terms of winning the weeks. They did so again here. You mentioned the big ass Extreme Blast, which is something you should not Google. Cactus Jack feels like the central story here. His departure, his kind of farewell, so on and so forth. Oracle, layout, Cactus, his final days here in ECW. I know that he closes out the month with like a promo, right? Was your best promo with farewell. Talk Cactus here as he wraps up his ECW run.
Yeah, he had an all-time great run in ECW. I think he probably had a top 5 run in ECW.
Yeah.
Just because his character work was so strong, and he does have some good matches. He had a really good weekend in the ring here. He worked Jericho in Queens, had a really good match.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it was Jericho's first full match we actually get to see in this project. Jericho looked good, but Mick kind of carried it through, and it was a really, really good match. Jericho wins this match. Foley and Mikey Whipwreck have a great match, like a legitimately great match in Foley's last match in ECW. Lots of big, nasty bumps. Violent. Mikey Whipwreck wrestles with like a neck brace on for half the match, and Foley takes it off and works him over. And typical like crazy cactus bumps, and Mikey takes big bumps and has a good finish. And of course, leads to the post match with a farewell, which is just amazing. Really, really heartwarming stuff, fun stuff. Foley comes in with booze throughout the weekend at first, then comes in and gives a nice speech at the end, and gives his there's a ECW has a bunch of famous fans, and there's a famous handicap fan that Mick would drive to shows with, and Mick comes in and hugs him, and he's crying, and Mick, so it's typical Foley stuff. It kind of shows how big of a heart he has, and of course that got a great standing ovation, and great moment where he says, "I want to call out 2 guys," and the fans think he's alluding to Todd Gordon and Paul Heyman, and it ends up being Stevie and Blue Meanie that he comes out, and they come out and dance to New York, New York, and leave the building to New York, New York, which is it's obviously New York, New York is edited out on the network, but it's on YouTube or Daily Motion somewhere, and it's outstanding. Probably the best, maybe my favorite send off in ECW ever. Just great stuff.
And to elaborate, that's an honor too in ECW terms, right? Like that's a real thing. That's a high praise. Yes. Okay. Now you mentioned Chris Jericho. This was another thing to note, so I thought it would be a natural fit to kind of jump this way here. Chris Jericho, his first matches here that you get a look at, national TV audience gets a look at. Speak to how Chris is getting on here. He's early days in ECW. We know what's ahead. How is he here in kind of entry level for ECW?
He's fine. Of course, he has the famous match with RVD that they actually put on a DVD where Heyman was like, "I don't know where the footage is. We the tape is messed up, but the match was actually bad." Could you imagine Heyman like bullshitting Jericho, not being able to have the guts to tell him his match sucked, and was like, "Well, the tape, got messed up." Taz was moving the tapes and it got messed up.
That is awesome. Okay, that rules.
I'm pretty sure it's in like his first book, I think, Jericho's, but
that rules.
But which I've actually never read, but I've heard the story enough times. But Jericho's fine here. He's he's just he's still getting his feet under him. He's white meat and kind of plain as can be, Lionheart stuff. Jericho doesn't really become the Jericho that we all think of until '98.
Yeah. Because what you just described is exactly what he is in WCW initially, right? He's just white meat babyface.
Great theme music, though.
Yes, which is now like on the network. Doesn't he have like a really shitty version of his WWF theme instead?
Well,
Haven't they like clipped it?
He's got that, but see his first theme when he was just a white meat babyface in WCW. It was
but
that one was good, and they still keep that one. But
they
the
have.
one that had the what was it? It was Pearl Jam, right? It was like the thing that sounded like Pearl
Yes.
Jam, right?
So
That
the
was it.
original that is still there. I didn't realize that. That's
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the first one where he was just white meat babyface
Hmm.
is still there, or at least it was from memory. I hope it is. If I go on there and I have to listen to like dubbed in shitty, like I was like,
Lame break the walls down
yeah,
edit that they didn't ever use. Okay. Cactus is on his way out. So are Ray and Hoovy. This is their swan song. So they have a 2 out of 3 falls match. This was your match of the month, right? They have on this show. Speak to their departure. Speak to this match, which was your favorite for ECW of the month. So on and so forth. Go ahead.
oh yeah, they just I think this is a better series than the Psychosis series from the fall of '95. Ray and Hoovy just go out there and do crazy stuff, and they pace it a little bit better, and it's a very famous match, the one they show the ECW arena where they go and brawl out on a car, and Ray takes like a
Yes.
run off the car or whatever. Hoovy does one or the other. Just a blast. Super good match. Good way to send those guys off as they're both just about ready to finish up a little. I think they go back to AAA for a little bit, like a month or so. And I know they both work I think Ray works the World Peace Festival on June 1st. And then, of course, he debuts at the Great American Bash against Malenko, and
Rest is
Hoovy shows
history.
up at the end of the summer, and the rest is history. So,
Yeah. It's that's a cliche, but I think in Ray's case it's fair, right? Rest is history. I mean,
yeah.
you could argue that before that in the timeline, but definitely that point. Yeah, this is gonna be fun to talk about. Okay, those guys are going, but New Jack is back, which is always a scene. Oracle, what's New
Oh,
Jack up to? He's back in the territory. Talk us through it.
if you want to get a laugh and have your jaw drop to the floor, just go to the unedited full show versions, the TVMA versions, where they get like
Yeah.
if you need to put parental lock on, blah, 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 before these big ECW shows so you can hear New Jack's promo unedited. If you want that treat, go ahead. Fair warning, some may find it offensive.
Yeah.
New Jack was his own unique promo.
It's a very polite way of putting it. I respect that. Yeah, he was unique indeed.
Yes, he came back and challenged the headhunters.
Yeah.
And lots of random brawling going on. That dubbed in song for them is actually not that bad. The Gangstas.
It's
It's
I'll
a
put it,
hardcore thing in the ghetto.
yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
Surprise.
It could have been a lot worse. But
Yeah,
obviously
it
it's
could have
hard
been.
to.
It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it's hard to recreate. Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, when you're dealing with something that you're going to hear as much as you're going to hear the dub because they played it throughout all New Jack's matches and stuff, it's
Right.
difficult. But because I told you I did like the TNN stuff, right? So I heard it a lot. I was like, it's not. It could have been way worse, right? So
New Jack explaining why he was in, jail in Atlanta. Well, I put the guy in the trunk of my car and I forgot he was in there. And I'm like, well, great. Good job, Jerome. It's
quite the character, fair to say. Shane Douglas is in the thick of things. He has a lot going on here. This start with his continued manipulation of Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman. This has been an angle you kind of explained in the last couple months. Where we at with it now? The kind of the update for March. Go ahead.
I just blank because I'm watching this game. Sorry.
Shane Douglas and his continued manipulation of Dreamer and Sandman.
Basically, he's got like this pact with Dreamer and Sandman because he's trying to get the world title back from Raven. Raven's a champ, and Shane Douglas has set up this pact. Dreamer where he will protect Beulah and the baby. Dreamer will help him get a title shot, and he'll help Sandman out, or rather, Sandman will help Shane Douglas win the title, and he'll be the first challenger.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the pact he made with the Sandman. So there's kind of and of course, ultimately, you can obviously tell, and they show the hand Douglas is basically playing both of them. So he's still technically a babyface, but this won't last long.
How do you feel about angles like that, where you have a character the audience can see through it, but the characters on screen can't? Do you think it's a case by case, and in a situation like this with
It
Dreamer and
depends on
Sandman,
who
it
it is.
works?
I thought it was pretty well executed here.
Good.
Because I think it's actually, even though I'm not Shane's biggest fan, I know you aren't either.
Yeah.
I think it kind of works here for him.
Mm-hmm.
It works. Some other guys it doesn't, but I could see Kevin Owens doing this. Although
Yes.
I think he plays the sincerity better than Shane does.
And it depends who's being played too, right?
Right.
These two characters, you can buy that.
Right.
So yeah, it's case by case. It's interesting. Elsewhere though, he won best angle here. He shared it with Pillman. Their confrontation. He said this feud's really heating up in the notes. It said so. Shane Douglas in the thick of things. Update us on the program with Pillman, the loose cannon clash, so to speak.
Let me tell you what, Pillman is amazing here right before the car crash.
Yeah.
Like he comes out in like these like bizarre outfits and like carrying this like cane and like he looks like he's done a line of something on aluminum foil outside of the he's just he's wandering around with like football players from the Eagles and his lawyers, and he's confronting Shane Douglas in the crowd, and there's one angle where he takes his sister or cousin and her kid and holds them in front of him so Shane can't punch him, and it's just amazing. Like he looks like a total star here. It's the biggest he's ever looked as a star, in my opinion.
What an never. I mean, it's not something to dwell on in this series, but what if? It's just because it's never the same. I mean, it's terrible to think about, but he's.
I like the awesome stuff in '96 and '97 when he comes back.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's just different. It's like in ring.
It's just different. Yeah.
When does Pillman
you can
pass
tell
away?
He's in pain walking on that ankle too.
End of December '97. Does he pass away? When does?
Beginning of October '97.
Wow. Yeah, but of course, because Stampede's summer, I thought it was the fall. Yeah, so it's wild to think that here he feels hotter than ever, and like less than 2 years he's gone. It's tragic. It's such a shame. It's brutal, man. But this stuff is kind of famed, right? I think what's interesting is so many wrestlers have tried to replicate the vibe he had here. Like so many. You can never do it. It's just a sweet spot in time.
It's too hard. It's too hard. Like, there are elements that the really good ones can pull off well from this stuff, but this was something else.
And it was a moment in time too, right? Where the audience, you had a smart audience, but it wasn't completely blown open. It's just a moment in time for sure. Okay. Elsewhere, Taz, he's working more competitive matches. He chokes out Bam Bam. Also, that was a program. You explained the setup for that. Program's kind of a weird term for it, but they went head to head and stuff.
The actual program doesn't really happen until
exactly
at '98, but.
It was just sort of confrontations and such. But update us on Taz, way more competitive matches, and then the Bam Bam piece. Go ahead.
Taz broke his neck in the summer '95.
Mm-hmm.
It's obvious 8 or 9 months have passed by, and it's like, okay, my neck's feeling better now. I can take bumps, and that's what's going on here. And at the same time, there's a progression of getting more competitive because, people are giving him more of a harder time or whatever. That's also, but I think a big part of it is just that he probably feels better physically.
Yeah.
So he can go in there and get suplexed on his head too, which happens a few times in these matches. He has some good matches here. Can't remember which match. I think the Mikey match might happen here, which is good. So
he worked Mikey on one of these shows. I think the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I think he worked him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you at on Taz as an in-ring performer?
I think he's fun depending on who he works.
Yeah.
I think he's good at short matches. I think if he goes too long, it starts to become a problem.
Would you say his reputation in ring has outweighed his actual body of work at this point?
Oh yeah.
Because he's kind of framed in history as like an awesome in ring guy, which is really interesting, right? Like,
He was never good. He was never great in the ring.
no,
I don't
and
think he was
like
ever really good in the ring. I mean, he was fun.
to be clear, like neither of us
Taz
care,
was the whole
right?
package, the character, the
Yeah,
promo, like
exactly. Yeah, neither of us care. He rules, but like, it's
right.
really interesting that when people talk ECW,
Mm-hmm.
they put like a Sandman or a Sabu in this box, and they're like, but then Taz, he had them suplexes. He was this great wrestler. It's
Sandman and
like, what?
Sabu have a way better.
You see what I'm saying? It's just, and I think part of it is his job
Sandman's
as
a
an
good
announcer.
worker. I don't care what anybody says.
There you go.
Everybody thinks Sabu's a good worker, but
But
with his flaws. But
I think the way that Taz was so cerebral and technical and as an announcer, I think that's part of it too. I think people kind of convince themselves. It's just interesting. Anyway, ECW won every week of this. Is it fair to say that this was one hell of a month for them, right? They had a lot of competition with Mania month, and they took every week. So,
they did.
overall for ECW, March of '96.
Oh yeah, just a great month. Big Ass Extreme Bash was great. They keep chugging along. April's a big month. Like I said, I'm almost finished with that. Lots of things happen there. A few weeks, we'll touch on that. But 96, all-time great year for ECW. Maybe the best year.
Mm-hmm.
Many have argued, 95 and 96 are usually the ones that people kind of juggle. But yeah, this company's hot.
Yes. Meanwhile, in Gotham City, over at World Championship Wrestling, our friend Eric Bischoff is battling away. He's swinging for the fences. He's coming up with a lot of air. Uncensored 1996 is the focus. Oracle, we have teased it. The people have waited long enough. Let's talk Doomsday Cage. Let's start at the top. We'll work our way down from there. And I do not think this is hyperbole. Truly one of the most insane wrestling matches ever concocted, ever planned, ever plotted. There are many, many men involved in this. There are two baby faces fighting an army. There are many cages. The best two workers in the match are inexplicably in the very top cage and are only in the match for a couple minutes. It is a scene to see. Oracle, explain as best you can the Doomsday Cage. This is going to take some time, but the floor is yours.
Okay, so let me set the stage a little bit. So there's no sort of, unless because I don't watch the C shows because they're not on the network.
Right.
Unless there's like a preview of it, you don't know what the cage looks like going in.
Neither did the wrestlers, I don't think.
And so when you open the show, the first thing you look for when they do the pyro is like, where's the cage? And then you go to the entranceway and you're like, you're coming out of this cage here. And so, sort of this like cage tunnel. It's almost like it's a prison cell or something. Which actually kind of looks cool when they come out in inches in the undercard. Then you start to get a good look at it throughout the show, and you're like, what is this monstrosity that they've concocted here? What type of South Dakota peyote is Eric Bischoff gotten himself into now? Because this is, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to even describe it. It's like a triple cage with trap doors and parts we have to crawl underneath to get in, like a rat trying to escape out of a.
It definitely has like obstacle course vibes.
Yes. And so when we finally get to the main event, the heels all come out and like the commentary is like trying to like WCW's famous for it because it's WCW.
Yeah.
Even when they brought the sports entertainment element stuff in, it's still WCW.
Yeah.
So they're like talking about it like it's like this serious thing. Yeah. That was always funny about WCW. Because like, especially when, you get to like the 25th month of the NWO and it's like, what about Hulk Hogan here? What's wrong with the Hollywood Hogan? And you're like, okay, all right, Dusty, what's the point here? And like, and the same goes here for this. Like, it's like it's just amusing to hear him, and then they're like, "Where's Brian Pillman at?"
Oh, God bless.
And Pillman's not. He must have He must have refused. He must have refused a spam call here. Sorry, but he must have refused to show up or something or another. You know, which I thought was a nice touch that they brought him up. Hold on, let me block this number real quick. But Millington, New Jersey. Well,
my God,
don't know anybody there.
Johnny Ace has moved, huh?
But this was so Hogan and Savage come out. They have to go all the way up to the top of the. So the rules of the match are like you have to start from the top of the cage, which was where Flair and Arn are,
which is an incredible choice.
and then they go down to the middle part of the cage, which is where the Faces of Fear and Kevin Sullivan are, and then they go down to the and I think Luger's in there with Sullivan. It's like 4-on-2 down there.
Yeah,
and then they have to go down there, and apparently at the end you're supposed to get Z Gangsta. And
Z Gangster is an incredible piece of business, by the way.
Of course, I'll never forget. May he rest in peace, Cheap Swenson.
Indeed.
But when I was a kid, I used to ask my brother Dylan, I said, who's the worst wrestler you've ever seen in the ring? He said, oh, it's got to be Cheap Swenson.
Yeah.
The Ultimate Solution.
What a name, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was Bane, wasn't he? Right? Wasn't he Bane in the Batman flick?
He might have been Bane. Yeah,
I think he was. In the old, the one with Schwarzenegger. I don't know. Chat help. Batman knowledge is falling. I think he was Bane.
Apparently, Connor's aunt called me just now.
Wow, just really loving the show. Had to get a question in like it was radio.
Small world. But so they start this match, and immediately, I mean, it doesn't matter because basically his entire ECW run is just joking. But Heenan's already just like, this is dumb, so I'm just gonna make jokes the whole time.
Yeah,
they do. And by the way, as an aside, Heenan was always funny. He was never not funny. All the way to the end, he was funny.
Mm-hmm.
Problem with Heenan is he would just when he didn't care, all he would do is say jokes, so it got annoying. Even though the jokes were always funny, it was annoying.
It needs to be a balance, right? There needs to be, yeah.
But I am sick and tired of Corey Graves trying to fucking be Bobby Heenan. Tired of him.
Yeah.
But anyway, he started to pull that shit 5 or 6 years ago, and it's just been. It's like, no, stop. But Heenan makes one joke where somebody brings up a Doberman, the dog, or something, and put your Doberman, or Heenan says something about put your Doberman in a figure 4, and I laugh for like 2 minutes.
You have to have fun with this stuff, right? He's like, because that was Schiavone's problem. Was bless his heart, he tried to make it seem serious, and it made him a joke.
Right.
You either become the joke or you just accept that this
like
is
98, 99.
Oh,
the greatest night in the history of our sport. And like,
yeah.
Tony, come on.
He killed Tony. His whole reputation was ruined because of that, Because
he's so good through 97. So good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Especially 96, 97. Gosh, he was good. But and they just, they're up there in the cage, Hogan and Savage versus Flair and Arn, and it's just they're like look like they're gonna fall through at points. And then there's like powder thrown, and at one point like powder's thrown down at Sullivan, and then into the whole thing is just a total mess.
Classic Hogan, by the way. What a piece of shit. Always cheats, man. Piece of shit.
Then they get to the middle part of the cage, and there's they're trying to like trap Hogan and Savage on one side because there's a door between the middle part, and then they ended up like cutting off the Faces of Fear from Sullivan and Luger and locking them away from each other. And then they somehow, for some reason, decided they were just going to leave the cage entirely. And then they just brawled ringside and just did like typical brawling where pretty much felt like Hogan and Savage just kind of squashed him for a little while.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
then,
Yeah.
and then Z Gangsta and the Ultimate Solution show up, and are supposedly this dangerous force, and they get down to the ring part of the bottom part of the cage, and they're in there brawling and fighting, and Hogan and Savage are in trouble. I mean, they're in big trouble, and Booty Man, which is legitimately maybe the worst act in the history of wrestling.
Which in this match alone is a statement, let alone in the history of
He
wrestling.
comes out and listen, I don't know if you follow Marvel or what. I don't know what they had or what, but I mean it was or watch Game of Thrones, but it was like Valerian steel or vibranium or some shit, man. Because let me tell you what, those frying pans, they were powerful.
Factual.
I mean, he gave him Booty Man comes out and gives Hogan and Savage. I mean, surely the most powerful frying pans of all time. Surely they aren't the ones that a college freshman would buy off the rack at Walmart, but they were. Boy, let me tell you what, those frying pans, something else. A couple shots to the head, with one shot apiece,
Yeah.
It's not like I would take, a flimsy frying pan shot when I was 10 years old when I was backyarding or anything. But, apparently that's super effective. So, that takes everybody out, wipes everybody out, except for Luger, who somehow avoids the frying pan, crawls under. And in a great commentary moment, Tony Schiavone goes, Lex Luger's the only one healthy because he hasn't been hit in the head with a frying pan. They hold Savage. Flair holds Savage up.
Oh no!
Loaded glove from Luger. They were doing this whole thing, and it's not like they totally drop it because they still kind of get back to it. But this is sort of the beginning of the end of the Luger heel turn because they have to just run him basically from here because of what happens.
Indeed.
So. Because, I mean, as I've gotten through April, he's not even like teasing as a heel anymore. He's just a babyface now.
This was the end of it, bro. This was the end.
This was the end, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This is the end right here. And this is a shame because earlier in the show, he had the whole, you messing up my here, whatever. No. This is it. This wasn't supposed to be it, I don't think.
No.
But, so he has the loaded glove.
Yes, and does.
And Savage doesn't duck the first time.
No.
So Luger has to pump. And there's a long second. And then he finally punches as if to give Savage time to duck, and then he hits Flair.
Yes.
And so in order to try to save face, the commentary is like, well, it seems as if Lex Luger was.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot the best part. After that happens, Hogan takes a couple of punches at people. And you hear Hogan go to Savage, come on, brother, let's get out of here. Well, Randy forgets to cover Flair for the 3.
They have to go out back.
And he has to go back and cover Flair for the 3. And the ref's like, we got to get that 3 in. And then they leave. And then Dusty's like, oh, how come they now? Well, I was like, it survived. And it's like, okay,
We're going to get
like Luger turn face, and now they got the Luger. And they end up doing a Luger Flair TV feud for a little bit, but
they was kind of forced.
Luger's the face, because they had to save face by saying, well, it appears as if it was a setup.
And
Randy Savage was just like, oh, I forgot to duck, brother.
You did a great job explaining it, but like, you guys, if you haven't seen it, you need to seek out the finish at least because it is hilarious. Like, poor Lex is just stuck there, like waiting. It's terrible. Brother, are we ever going to get this level of magic back in the business? I mean, this is a level of bad that, like, it feels like you have to try to be bad, right? Like, how do you pull this off?
See, this is the problem with wrestling these days.
Yes, I agree.
People
Agreed.
try to be good too much.
Agreed.
Stop trying to be good, man.
Agreed.
That's silly.
It's like
And you know what? You know what? I will say this, and this will get me tons of heat. I'd rather you pretend to try to be good, but actually be bad, kind of on purpose. I think that's like so bad you're good than it is to try to be good and be bad at it.
you want self-aware, bad professional wrestling.
Correct.
Agreed. I think Jeff Jarrett may give us this at some point this year. I think he's going to come
Please.
back. Yeah.
We need
Yeah, it's
it.
exciting. Very exciting stuff. Okay. The Lex Luger part of this, I think you covered, pretty much. It's a shame, right? In all seriousness. I mean, we both love the stuff where Lex is kind of teasing and he's kind of taking advantage of Sting's good nature. And it's a shame, but you know what's really interesting to think about is like the ramifications of this moment because, eventually
Luger gets
Lex,
hot
yeah, he
pretty
feels like the top
quickly.
babyface. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's amazing to think about where we end up. Like if he's a full heel by May, and then the NWO happens, like what does that mean for Lex? Could you
Yeah.
imagine? Like it's weird.
Did you
It's weird to
join
kick
him
around.
or then?
Right? Because
Yeah.
in the summer of '96, him, Sting, and Savage are kind of like the all-star baby faces, right? They're the
Right.
so if he turns, it's just weird to think about. I mean, I assume he would have been a babyface by kind of default at some point, but it's interesting. Nonetheless, you mentioned Pillman, who was not in this match, was supposed to be, wasn't in it. His ongoing antics was your pick for best angle here on the WCW side of things. Where are we at with Pillman? Obviously, he's not at the pay per view, which is telling as to where we're at. But lay out best you can what he's up to here in March.
So a couple times we see him. One time he's out in the crowd holding up a Pillman needs justice sign, whatever the hell it is, or Pillman whatever. And like Bischoff goes, "It's Brian Pillman" in the crowd, and Bishop comes up and like comes to security, get him out of there. Then there's another time where they did the big brawl where it was right before Uncensored, where as he Gangsta and Ultimate Solution show up, and Pillman is like just shows up and starts like unprofessionally, like he and like Savage, you can tell gets furious, and like he and Savage start shooting on each other, and like Hogan or like Pillman nose sells a couple shots from Hogan, but like you can tell Hogan's like trying to like not be around Pillman because Hogan don't want to deal with that brother,
He sure doesn't.
And you can tell Pillman was kind of like going after Hogan, but I even think Pillman was kind of like maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I wish he had.
Yeah.
But he and Savage went right at it, and Randy wasn't having any of it. They were that. I mean, that looked like an actual like.
You're not overshadowing Savage, brother. Not on his watch. He's gonna fight you for every inch of that. Like it's. Yeah, it's interesting that Pillman stuff is like the only stuff that feels like has life on the TV when you know that he's gone. Like it's weird, man. One guy that you can always count on in that regard, at least, Ric Flair. He closes out the month with the best promo for WCW on a Nitro. Where are you at on like? It sure feels like even including him in this stuff is bad for the Horsemen's whole vibe, brand, identity. Is this kind of like a point in the timeline of the Four Horsemen? I mean, this incarnation isn't really fond to remember, but this, man, them being even in this just feels like this ain't the Horsemen,
Yeah, it's the Horsemen. It was always fun to see them come out in 96, 97 in the peak of Nitro, and I still think I'm going to enjoy that stuff. The Jarrett stuff is not very good, and
right.
But this was this doesn't fit the Horseman well at all. The last great Horseman angle was the Bischoff stuff, which I legitimately love.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Orange Retirement and stuff was great, but then they just,
that one's immediately erased
killed
because
Winston
of the follow.
Salem, as Flair says.
Indeed.
So, that was a thing. But without them doing that, the '98 stuff wouldn't have been so cool, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. What's the details on the promo that he closes them up?
Oh, yeah. So he comes out and just kind of cuts a promo on Luger and talks about how he just jealous about all the women that I have, and cuts a promo on Savage about having Liz and a woman. And
Incredible.
You know, because they really start to get into the personal side of the Savage Flair feud coming up, involving money, if you remember, and so on and so forth. So that'll be much of the discussion in April. So
yeah, it's interesting looking at the main event pieces here, and I say it regularly on this show, but it's worth reiterating, folks. We are like 2 months away from the big angle getting underway.
Mm-hmm.
And Oracle can confirm because he's watching it right now. It feels like a mile away, a lifetime away, but it's coming.
Yeah.
You know, it's so interesting the way it works. The Giant is back. He's repushed, so to speak. He's been 5 months into his in-ring career. He's already feeling it was like even on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
At Uncensored, he has a match with Loch Ness that on any other pay-per-view card would have stole the show as the worst, but on this one, because the main event didn't, I guess. Talk us through the Giants' latest, the match with Loch Ness, which
they finally pushed him because I think that at this point they've planned to give him the belt.
Yeah.
So and like have him give him a run with it. So like they're kind of pushing him there. It's kind of like he's tired of playing games, and he's gonna go and take care of business type deal because I'm a child. He was super. The dude was taking crazy bumps, doing all kinds of crazy shit.
Oh yeah,
dude, he took like a flat back bump off the ring apron.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's a maniac.
Imagine if he just had.
He was a freak athlete, man. When he was young, God, he was so athletic.
If he was in better hands as a rookie, I think he'd be a really interesting case study because, like, he obviously eventually
he became a smart worker, very smart worker.
Yeah, very. I mean, if you're looking at like, I think he's good basically the whole time after he comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when did he come out? 08 with the Floyd stuff?
Yeah. That Floyd feud's amazing.
I think he's pretty much. I mean, obviously, sometimes his booking ruins him, but like in ring, I think he's good all that time.
Good all the way up through the Braun thing.
Yeah, and the Braun thing.
The hell, the McIntyre match is good.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's true. I was going to say the Braun thing should have been his last note, but you're right.
Yeah, but I mean, the McIntyre, the bar thing was, it was fine, but like not really.
That.
And then he had the Randy Orton angle before he left, which was.
And he had in the middle of those, he had the one with Kevin and Joe. Remember when he was like there? He came in to help them.
Yeah.
That feud is so weird to look back on.
Oh, the Rollins.
Because like AOP were cut within months of that, right?
Yeah.
Bud Matt, we understand. Joe, that was like his last match on the main roster. Big Tall Paul was,
Is that the one where Kevin Owens does the running?
Yes.
That ruled.
There's actually some fun angles, and it's just one of those things that is forgotten because there's nothing came next. It's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, after all this talk about how great Paul White, the Big Show, is, this match with Loch Ness is not so good.
The funniest part is I think he went to the big boot and leg drop.
Yeah, that rules.
Because Loch Ness can't take a chokeslam. Have you ever seen the interview with Okerlund and Loch Ness at this show?
I'm sure I have. I don't remember it, though.
Must see.
I don't remember it.
Okerlund's just total Gene. Like,
yeah.
No. And like at the end, he's like, well, I have a friend in Florida. I want to give you his number. He happens to be a dentist. And the look Loch Ness gives him is one of the funniest, like, I'll fucking kill you looks I've ever seen.
I mean, bless his heart, but Haystack shouldn't have been in the ring at this time, right? Like, he's like 50. He's in bad health. It's choice, man. It's all of it is choice. It's just crazy matchmaking. But anyway, speaking of crazy matchmaking, the aforementioned Booty Man goes 16 minutes with Diamond Dallas Page.
Listen.
Which feels like a lifetime. I remember that much from this show. Talk us through Booty Man running wild, brother, in this pay-per-view classic with DDP.
God awful. Look, I've never liked Beefcake, but this is horrendously bad. This is some of the worst stuff I've ever seen. Yeah. It's unwatchable. I can't handle it. It's so bad. Like, and he comes out to like this music, and and the whole time it's just like he like sticks his ass out to get spanked by Kimberly mid-match. It's horrible. It's like, it's awful. It's like the worst act I've ever seen.
Wow, are you you're confident on that, aren't you? You're bullish on this worst act ever.
Really bad.
This could be a late night grim bit. The worst acts in wrestling history. I had to think about this. Chat, prepare the Arsenal for that conversation. We might do that tomorrow night. I won't remember it, but if I do, remind me.
Don't forget about your list now.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, good point. Poor DDP, right? Even he couldn't salvage anything here. We've been very, full of praise for his pay-per-view matches, but everyone has their limits, don't they?
Yeah, it was horrendous.
Yeah, it's tough. The opener of Uncensored, US title match, Conan defending against Eddie Guerrero. Conan is US champ. This starts like a kind of he floats around these mid card titles. He hits like the TV in '98, doesn't he? Went from Jericho on I forget, but where are we at with Conan? I know this is not the Conan that people like vividly remember from WCW, right? This is a little before that. But,
he's still AAA Conan here.
Yeah, exactly. How's he doing here? How was the match with Eddie, so on and so forth? Go ahead.
It's not over. He doesn't connect until he does he smartly finds a way to connect.
Yeah.
With his mic skills and stuff, but he's a creative worker and he does his best, but it's just he has no charisma, and like he doesn't put things together very well in matches. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of like
he's sort of uncoordinated. There's a weird. He moves in a strange way, doesn't he? Creative worker is fair. Like he does some cool stuff, but it's just it never looks right, does it? I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you. Match with Eddie's fine though, right? Yeah. Fine match. Okay. This pay-per-view is. I'm gonna end with the one good match on the show.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, Memphis Woman, Colonel Rock Parker, Medusa, Colonel brother, he's doing some comedy. We find it funny or not, up to you. But he's doing it. What do you think?
Listen, it's a pro wrestling promo. Bear with me, but the promo that Parker cuts in the pre-match is incredible. It would be what I would describe as not a woke promo, but it is a incredible promo nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, he does sort of get his comeuppance, and he just bumps Oliver for Medusa. He's excellent in this, and Medusa's fun. It's fine. It probably lasts a little bit too long. Definitely a little bit too long. But
is it like
the commentary eats it up? Like Dusty has a field day with it.
How hilarious is it that Medusa, like, legitimately 3 years earlier did this exact angle with Paulie?
Yeah.
And, like, she goes away, does this Fed run, becomes, like, the women's champ, comes back. Here she is again, brother. You got some sexist heel manager talking shit, and she's got to beat him up. Like, by the way, speaking of problematic promos, I co-sign none of the content. That segment at Havoc 92 when Paulie does the angle. Oh, that's some good shit, isn't it? When Paulie, when they're on the stage,
angle, great stuff.
People are like, you can feel it, right? People want to kick the shit out of him.
Great stuff.
Well, to me, this is a case of like, this is fine variety show stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's on a show with very little good wrestling, so it exacerbates it. It's tough. There is a hit though. This was your best match of the month for WCW. It will not surprise anyone when I say it's something that I think you should seek out, those of you who haven't, because it's stylistically just so like brutal and like it's so out of place in this setting. Regal and Finlay. This is violent, man. This is violent. It's a very, very famous match. I think it's fair to say in this kind of genre of nerdy wrestling talk. What did you think of it? Obviously, you liked it, but explain.
Oh yeah, this fucking ruled, man. They just like beat the tar out of each other, and like it gets more violent as the match goes along.
Yeah.
And the commentary are losing their minds. They're like, "Oh my god!"
Yes.
And like,
Shivani's having a blast. A blast.
Yeah, they're like all getting into it, and I mean, they're just like everything. All the strikes are just like they're so brutal. They're like Finlay is like not holding back. He's like, I mean, Regal is too, but like Finlay especially is like they were supposed to go to a 30-minute draw. I don't know if you know this.
Yes.
But they're out there ball on the floor. Fucking Finlay pops Regal so hard in the nose, he breaks his nose.
Yes.
I mean, you see the punch too, and you hear it, and you're like,
Oh
my
yeah, you
God.
hear it. Yeah, that's the key. You
Yeah.
hear it.
And they do a decent way to try to cover it up. The Blue Bloods come out and attack Finley, and it's just like, oh my God. And of course, they have a famous Saturday night match, and they also have the parking lot brawl that I'm just about to watch in the next few days. So, but
It's the way I always took this match was that Finley decided he was going to try to pull out he was going to inspire Regal's roots to come forward. You know, Regal at this point has been working WCW for what we're looking at 3 years, right? Like,
yeah,
and he's adjusted and like he still hits hard, but it's different. And Finley's like, we're gonna this is gonna be the stuff way back when, and they beat the hell out of each other. It's sight, man. It needs to
awesome.
be seen.
It's violent, and like the crowd is not bored, but they also don't know how to take it because they don't really like.
And it has no like rhythm. It's just like blunt violence almost. So they're just hitting each other.
It's insane.
Yeah, this would be one of the more interesting matches to like. If you could time machine this into a crowd today, it would be such a different vibe, wouldn't it?
Right. Blunt violence is a perfect word to use because it's just like.
It's kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, it's really interesting. If you know Regal,
match,
it's awesome. If you know Regal as like the kind of comedy character, he's great at that. I think he's proud of that legacy. It's worth seeking this out, though. This is
yes. Well,
I think
Regal's one of these guys who you could believe he's like a total bumbling fool, and the next second you believe he kills somebody.
That's his greatest strength, and that's one of those intangibles that doesn't speak on scam.
That was what was great about Foley too.
Yeah,
Foley's this bumbling idiot, loser-looking guy, and the next second,
Yeah, it's. I remember when Schiavone's podcast did their review of this show. I remember vividly Tony saying it's like his favorite WCW match. He's like, it was like top. He said definitely said like top 5 because he loved
him on commentary marking out for it.
Yeah, he loves Regal.
Oh my goodness, look at that!
I think it just popped him to see Regal in this environment. Like, it's really cool. Meech's is on YouTube, so there you go, folks. Okay, in other news, the Steiners are back. They are back in presence. The Steiners are not the same. When would you say the Steiners hit the wall? Like 94? When would you? Because they're just not the same.
Yeah, 94.
Yeah. But they're back, and it's always awesome to see them. Where are the Steiners out here come back into the territory?
Yeah, so they do this angle where, like, it's supposed to be, like, the Road Warriors and the Nasty Boys, and somebody attacks the Nasties backstage, and then, like, there's a big curtain, and then, like, the Steiners drive through on motorcycles. Oh, it's the Steiner brothers. And then, it's like, who attacked the Nasty Boys? It ends up being Public Enemy, which we'll get to that in April. But, because the Nasties and Public Enemy were in a feud at the time. But, Steiners are coming back, and they're actually kind of just basically in a feud with the Road Warriors.
Yeah.
Kind of like in a TV feud with them.
That was a bad choice.
Yeah, it was.
Both those teams, especially in 1996, needed some bumping heels. They did not need to be,
because they're just going to no-sell and just, like,
exactly
not be cooperative. The match went, like, 15 minutes. Did you ever see this match? The match goes, like, 10, 15 minutes. It never ends.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
And then, like, the Steiners lose in the return. And so I'm like, it's just like this.
We say it often.
I love the Steiners. And I do like Scott Steiner in 99, 2000, 01 a good bit.
Yeah.
But it's like,
it was a short peak,
Yes.
Like, that's that sweet spot for the Steiners of being freak athletes, but like being excited to have good matches is a very short amount of time.
Yes. Yes.
And at this point, the athleticism part of it has declined.
Steiners versus the Hearts is an awesome match. I love that match.
Yes.
That's like the last, like.
That's one of their best matches.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It has to be. What is the Steiners' best match?
Like that sequence that Owen and Scott had in like the opening.
Oh,
that ruled.
I'm there. What do you think? What's the Steiners' best match?
Steiner's best match?
Because I'm thinking like I love the one with Eaton and Arn. Obviously, Luger and Steen.
That Nasty's tag at Havoc 90 is awesome.
And that may be the best Steiner's performance.
Mm-hmm. The
'cause,
Frankensteiner on Jerry Sags at the end.
yeah,
Just incredible.
yeah, that's interesting. Steiners are, I think they're a team we all love, but I don't know. They may be an act that's better to analyze less. You know,
Yes.
they're better in kind of broad strokes, but nonetheless, they're back. Okay, that was March for WCW. Is it fair to say that even though you said there was a couple nitros you enjoyed, in the overall big picture sense, is this about as bad as it can get for a promotion with this much talent?
It's pretty rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. April's in some ways worse, in some ways better.
Yeah.
It's a rough time, man. Which is
I
weird
have
because
to ask.
they just flipped the switch.
It's nuts. And all of a sudden everything seems to click. It's insane.
Yeah.
I have to ask, it wasn't in the notes, but I'd be remiss if I didn't. The Chicago street fight that goes about 18 hours with Sting
I don't
and
want to
Booker.
talk about it. I hate that match. You know, people used to talk about that match being good.
When I was looking at the notes, I tried to do a little so I know kind of rough. I think Dave give it 3.5 stars.
No. The highlight is Lex Luger in the back going, "You messed up my team."
I think, let me check this because now I'm intrigued. Hang on a second. Because this is like, it's actually 29 minutes long, which is hilarious.
It's for I can't handle it.
And it has the famed split screen.
I was suffering the whole time.
Okay.
It's the worst match on the show.
Well,
We
hold
talked
on.
about this. Well, I mean,
it's
no. It is the worst match on the show.
All right. Would you like? I'm going to give you now Dave
Let me
Meltzer's.
explain why.
Go ahead.
Why. Okay. The main event is hilariously bad.
Fair.
And surely, yes, it goes too long. But this is so unbelievably long and unorganized and bad that I didn't want to watch it. I couldn't handle it.
Okay. I'm now going
to. It's so dreadfully boring. The problem is, I'd rather watch something that's like just objectively bad than boring.
That's fair. That's fair.
I can't be bored.
We're not going to do this often. We're not going to do this often, but this is fun, right? Because this is such an infamous pay-per-view. I am now going to tell you Dave's star ratings for this pay-per-view, okay? And you could just say high and low. You can elaborate if you want. You can. Okay, here we go. Conan and Eddie for the US title, he give 3.25. Too high or too low, Oracle?
I give it 3.
Okay. Finley and Regal, he give 3.25.
I give it 4, 4.25. Idiot.
Colonel Robert Parker and Medusa, 1 star.
It was 2 stars. It was inoffensive.
The Boogeyman. Yeah, that's fair. How long was it? It was almost 4 minutes. Huge pop. The Boogeyman and DDP, dud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cosign. Okay. The Giant and Loch Ness, he give -1 star.
That wasn't any worse than Boogeyman DDP.
Yeah, sure.
It was just a dud.
Booker T and Sting versus Animal and Hulk, 3.5 stars.
I don't believe in giving negative stars, so dud.
The main event, the famed Doomsday Cage, he give -3 stars.
Dud.
What an incredible score that is.
Honestly,
-3 stars.
honestly, no joke. I actually might give the main event 1 star. But seriously,
fair.
Like, that's art.
Yeah, just out of respect, you kind of feel the need.
I can't give more than that. But like one, I might throw a little, snowflake at it.
That is awesome. Okay, folks, there you go. That was a worthwhile activity, I think, for that show. All right. Over in WWF, we often close out the World Wrestling Federation. It's a huge month for them. WrestleMania, as we talked about. WrestleMania 12, famous for a match that has caused debate and discussion on the internet for as long as it's been allowed. Let's start with before the match. Let's talk about the build, which I don't think is as divisive, and in fact is like a kind of a thing everyone points to as like, that was awesome. People try to recreate. I even remember when Sasha and Bayley did their Iron Woman match, they did some of this stuff. Do you remember that? They did like a little nod to this. The hype videos for this match, the kind of sports presentation, that was best promo. Was the hype videos. Lay out the build to this Brett Shawn match, the Iron Man. We'll talk about the matches of separate, but firstly the build, because I think it's basically a home run in my view. What do you think?
The build's amazing. Brett does a great job, kind of being like playing the heel here in some ways.
Yeah.
Talking about I'm quoting, he goes, well, the Mexican style of wrestling, is great high flying and stuff like that. But I can't. I'm sorry, I can't do the D.H. Smith version of Brett, which is outstanding. But
he's very good at that. Yeah.
He's, Brett, of course, buries that. There's these great video packages with Sean and his trainer Jose Lothario and down in San Antonio, and Brett's up there in Calgary, and JR's doing the voiceovers, and they're just Brett's running up, and like Brett always talks about how he thought his training didn't look as good, like in his DVD. He's like, I'm up there running around in ice and snow, and Sean's down there running up bleachers and the heat. But it's great build. There's like the match where Michaels and Al Snow have a match on Raw. It's pretty good, and Snow drops Sean on his head, and Sean gets mad at one point, and it pops me as Joe freezes here, but he's back. I don't know why I have to point that out. I just do it every time. Al Snow drops. He's Leaf Cast the other time. He drops Sean on his head at one point. Sean gets mad.
Yeah.
But the match is good. Brett and Sean have a good confrontation there. Jose Lothario has to try to keep them apart, and the build's just outstanding. And then the go home at the very end of the go home Raw. I used to get all the WWF like music albums when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorites of all time. You start a fire me, start a fire me. Start a fire. The Bret Hart video. Awesome video. Cheesy country music, but it fucking rules. And it's like Bret outside of the ring with his fans and Germany all over, and it's awesome. Have you ever seen this video?
Oh yeah.
It's an all-time great. It's so good.
Yeah. It's perfect for him too.
And I the song's cheesy, but I actually think the song rules.
Yeah.
And it fits.
Absolutely fits. Yeah. Yeah, it's tremendous.
It rules.
We kind of talked about when we were doing the Rumble match or the Survivor Series match, sorry, with Diesel, right? And we talked about that, the way that it was presented so straightforward and serious. This stuff's fun, man. These are the kind of builds that I love. This stuff.
Mm-hmm.
More of today's wrestling needs to steal this stuff. Honestly, it's great shit. We talked about it a little bit last night, but anyway, now let's get to the match. I changed my mind on the match. Every time I watch it, I come out on the opposite end of the scale. Not that I think it's the greatest match ever or anything, but I go in terms of underrated, overrated. I change a lot because I think sometimes people overstate its flaws and vice versa. On this watch, you did give it the best match of the month, which that can mean a lot of things in WWF 96, but you give it that. Where are you at on it at this point? The famed Iron Man match.
It's a good match. It's a very good one.
Yeah.
I appreciated the little things. If you watch it in chronological order, there are things about the build that they add in. Sean hits his high flying spots. Mm-hmm. It kind of takes Brett and kind of proves that his high flying is better than what Brett said it is. And there's a lot of technical work and limb work. And I like the ending, before they go to overtime with the sharpshooter. It's great drama. Of course, the entrances are outstanding. Sean coming down from the thing and Brett with the famous wink at his son, I think it was, or whoever. Just, great moment. Gorilla Monsoon comes back officially that match, the whole, it's just a great pre-match. Post-match is all-time great too. Brett being mad, walking out.
Yeah.
To Sean celebrate. That was great. The production was so good back then for them. God, it was so good. Just outstanding. And Kevin Dunn, I don't know what happened.
It's such a distinct flavor too,
Yeah. But problem is they drifting further and further away from being a wrestling company, and they're trying to be like an action, and it's a
Yeah,
total failure.
yeah.
And people who shoot wrestling should actually watch WWE production and realize what you're not supposed to do.
I wish
Because
that AEW like tried to be more separate with their production.
they're not, and it frustrates me.
Yeah, they're like a just better version, and it's like do
Right?
something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Demon Grin, we did the New Japan stuff. It may not be in the playlist because when I checked that it was incomplete. I'll add it, but it's
Yeah.
definitely a thing we did. We've done it in order, right? So it's there.
Yeah.
Um,
We definitely covered Circuit 95. We haven't done the um we could always we'll see, come June. Maybe
yes,
we'll watch a 91 show or something.
yeah, I'm sure. So we'll kind of be if we remember that's the thing that we should do. We'll do.
Oh
we'll
yeah,
do, we'll do it. I have to ask because this is something that always is kind of obvious to me when you watch this match. The first act with like the mat wrestling, dude, Sean's like not good at that stuff. And like I I think people overdo the Sean criticism nowadays. But that is a real thing. Like he's kind of limitations as a grappler and I think it's obvious when he's opposite Brett, right? Is that feels like a flaw
yeah.
of this match, am I wrong?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. That's a strength that Brett has that Sean just doesn't. Sean is better at like the arm drags and the
Yeah.
drop kicks and stuff like that. Um, but the mat stuff is just it's not a strength for sure.
Mm. It's too loose, right?
Right,
It's
right.
kind of
I like the idea of him like kind of trying to out wrestle Brett, but he's
yeah,
not convincing enough, right? Like
no.
from a level of storytelling, I actually liked it, but from execution, it could have been better. It's not really something I thought about till you brought it up, but I think it's a good point.
It's a really interesting match in kind of the history of the art form, the medium, whatever you want to say, because Brett is so proud of this match because he tells the story, and I'm sure you've seen him say it, where he broke it up. They broke it into acts, and there was this certain spot where I think he goes to the middle for his elbow drop deal, and they were at the exact time he wanted them to be at. He looked at the clock and he was like, they nailed it. It was perfect. And he was like, I knew this was perfect. This was the best match I'd ever had. Obviously, you and I don't see it as the best Bret Hart match ever, but it's a good match.
Right.
But isn't it interesting? Nowadays, if a guy does a 60-minute draw, they would have that mindset. It sure feels like Bret was singular in thinking about wrestling that way in 1996, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like it.
It's just interesting. It's kind of a moment in time, I feel. And it's hilarious to think about it on the other channel. There's all of this, Alliance to End Hulkamania shit going on. But anyway, give me that we've kind of opened this can of worms, we'll leave it here. But star rating, Reed, on this 60-minute draw. Iron Man. Where are you at?
Like 3.5.
Yeah, it's good, but the runtime makes good more challenging.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
hard, right? If you go 60, you kind of want it to be great. But I do think people overstate it being like bad. It's like, well, no, it's just not quite what you want it to be. It's fine.
Right.
Okay. This next one, as you said the other night, we're going to kind of step around a little bit. We want to talk about the build, which, it's the setup one best angle. The match we're going to kind of leave because of the Green Grappler next week. Goldust and Roddy Piper, the famed backlock brawl. Talk about the kind of, again, that angle, the build, and broadly about the match. We'll get into it in more detail next one, the Green Grappler, but go ahead.
So starts with Goldust goes in and makes a phone call because I think Razor. Someone said I think he failed a drug test or whatever. And he came back and he puts over Vader before he leaves, but and before the infamous MSG incident. So they kind of pivot over to to Piper, Goldust Piper, and Goldust comes in and makes one of the famous Raw phone calls they do on the tape shows, and cuts this reads a poem that is sexually explicit, and insane for 1996 television in general. And then he proceeds to do more of that stuff, and they have this great angle my angle of the month, I think, where Piper confronts
Yeah.
him, and they get in this. Goldust is getting in his head and teasing him and all this other stuff, and Piper slaps him, and they get in this big to-do shoving match, and they end up setting up the backlot brawl. But it's a great segment. Crowd eats it all up. Both guys are great in it.
It's that thing we talked about on the grin. I think it was months ago now. The ability to shoot an angle, right? The ability to get an angle over, to shoot an angle, to do a segment, a confrontation. It's something that doesn't, again, Piper at this point is what he is, but he's still got that here, hasn't he? Like
Yes.
he can still do that. It's an interesting skill that I think we gloss over so often, but when you see it, you feel it.
Right, exactly. He's great at it. He's great at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's his last WWF match until what, like sometime in 03?
What does he do in 03? I forget. What does he do in
He comes
03?
back in Mania 19 with a lead pipe.
Right, but
against Hogan.
what matches does he do? Because I know he's in that match, but I
He
forget.
works like
He definitely does something. I just can't remember it.
well for a while there. He's having like a Piper's Pit highlight reel feud, but he never worked Jericho in a match. He's on SmackDown. Jericho's on Raw. He was like Sean O'Hare was his guy, and like
Oh yeah, yeah.
He wrestles Mr. America. I think Hogan, of course.
Yes.
And the Mask. I think they wrestle at like Judgment Day 03.
They work a pay-per-view, you're right.
Yeah.
I think it's the pay-per-view where Austin and Bischoff are doing all their shenanigans throughout the show.
No, that's the first brand exclusive pay-per-view. That's Raw only.
Okay.
Because I remember I got that live when I was a kid. That was Bad Blood 03. That has Triple H and Nash, which is a really good match, cell match.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's correct.
Foley was the ref. Kind of sets up the Foley.
Now I'm trying to think of where because I've definitely seen I remember watching it, the Piper Mr. America thing. So now I'm thinking of
that's Judgment Day 03. That match is, I believe, and then
what else is on that show? Do we know?
Huh?
What else is on Judgment Day 03? Because I'm trying to remember. I definitely saw it.
Show in a stretcher.
Yes. Okay.
And then Brock has to get the forklift to get Big on the stretcher.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely seen that because I remember talking to Bobby about it.
Yeah, that also has like Tajiri and Eddie versus Team Angle in a ladder match for rules.
Speaking of wacky tag teams, what about when Piper gets like that weird tag title run in like 05 with Flair? 06 maybe even. Remember that?
Yes. I remember that live too. I remember that watching that when it happened. They were feuding with the Spirit Squad and Ron Simmons. That's when the damn stuff started.
Yeah. And they did like a UK tour and they just like wrote him out of it. Remember Piper just got like attacked and never
I think they had like a didn't they have like a match against the Rated RKO where they lost the tag? They had a match where they faced Rated RKO. The tag belts were so RKO was in a feud with
absolutely, that's what it was.
DX and Flair got all bloodied up and
yeah,
it was actually a pretty good angle. But
the match where they lose the belts, I think Piper gets like jumped in the entrance and just isn't there. Like he just gets taken out.
Right. Flair gets all bloody and has to work a handicap. Yeah.
Of course he does.
Flair
anyway.
During that period. I don't care what everybody says. 0506 American Onita Flair rules.
There's a match with Triple H. You know, in Triple H, like, after he loses to Batista and he like turns on Flair and they bleed buckets and it rules.
Oh yeah, their cage and their last man standing rule.
Yeah,
last man standing is when Triple H gets a ball peen hammer and like it's like
yes. I forgot that rules. Okay, the Warrior is back. The Ultimate Warrior is back. Speaking of Triple H, he famously just fucking obliterates him here at WrestleMania 12.
Oh yes.
Talk us through it, man. Warrior's back, and this is quite the moment in wrestling history, isn't it?
The moment that allows Ultimate Warrior to come back 18 years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was whatever. They did like a whole thing where like he's coming back, and this video packages over and over again, and they had the squash. And the only thing that's really memorable is Triple H comes out with Sable because Sable debuts here. And she's his valet for the night, and he like disses her. And Mark Mero debuts backstage with a promo, and
Yes, we'll
Obviously,
get to that.
Sable and Mark are together, but that's the reason I jumped to that is because it's the only really memorable thing. I
Anything
mean,
to talk about? No, I get you.
Warrior has the Gold Dust and Lawler feuds, which are interesting.
I've said this to you. I think I said it on the last show we did, but like, look, Warrior was a piece of shit. But if you're looking for a pop, him telling the story of this match is fucking hilarious. Because he claims that like Triple H spent the whole night trying to like figure out this match. So much so that he got Pat Patterson and like came with him like he was like the school teacher and was like, tell Warrior, because like he was kind of guy getting a push, and Warrior claims that he just said to him, I'm gonna take your finish, no sell it, hit my finish and pin you. And just told him matter of factly, like you're just a guy I'm beating, bro. There will be no match tonight. I'm just beating you. If that's true, that was the comic book or villain origin story for Triple H. He said, well, there's a lesson to be learned there. So
Yeah,
it's fun. As you kind of referenced, this run is not going to be so fun. But worse is ahead in the On Warrior story. So we'll get to that in about 8 years, right? The last piece of it. But anyway,
right.
you mentioned Mero and Sable. Anything else on them coming into the promotion here, or anything else to add on that front?
I mean, what in terms of Mero, Sable?
Yeah. Anything?
I mean, I can tell you that I'm already liking Mark Mero from what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
works hard,
we
man.
liked him trying to be bad, but I think he's already got good matches on Raw that I've seen. I'll just say this: he had a good match with Kane, man. Good match with Isaac Yankem. Good TV match.
It's a challenge, brother. He's slept on, man. He slept. I mean, the King of the Ring match with Austin is like.
Yeah, it is.
And it's interesting because those guys obviously have both just like it's weird kind of moment in time, right? Because they've worked up, but it's just they rock it. It's weird how perception is reality with these guys. We talked about Taz earlier. Mero's become a guy that people just like say sucked, and it's like
not true.
It's weird, man. I think WWF guys just didn't like him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Look at Adam Cole in the chat being a piece of shit. Anyway, Diesel Undertaker is famous on this show. Is this Kevin's last Mania match?
Yeah, because he was just he was the second for Scott Hall and
yeah. Wow, that's wild because he comes back multiple times, but this is his last Mania match.
It is.
I like this. I really do. Oracle, what do you think of the build? What do you think of the match? Taker and Diesel. What did you think?
Before I do this, fill some airtime because I found a bug. So
okay.
Let me get rid of the bug here.
Okay.
Fill some airtime.
Okay.
I'll be back as quickly as I can.
Well, folks, you never quite know what's going to happen on the Historical Oracle. Fault makes it such an exciting live experience. A bug is currently being dealt with. I see my pal Wrestle Purist in the chat. He says when he rewatched in the late 90s, Mark Mero was one of the guys he's reminded of how solid he was. By the way, if you would like some wrestling content once this is done, and we're wrapping up here soon, we're just finishing with WWF, you can watch Wrestle Purist, the very first Wrestle Purist podcast. I was on that with our pal Scott Underwood and the man himself, Montel Vontavious Porter. Adam Cole Bay in the chat says that Mero rules. Meech says Mero was great, even though I think they wanted people to hate Johnny B. Bad. Well, you might be able to get him on the grin at this rate. This is a real loving we've got here. Here Oracle's back.
I have returned.
Yes.
The bug has been.
The bug has not returned.
has been compromised to a permanent end.
Okay.
Terrible reference there. Terrible.
What did you think of Diesel and the Undertaker, bro?
Match was good. Match was good. This was I really liked they worked it. I actually liked the way they paced it. Nash was so good at he was just really embracing the cocky jerk heel.
Yeah.
And he like hit his jackknives, and normally you'd be like, why is he going for the cover? But like he's just being a jerk, and like I like him like
Mm-hmm.
kicking at Taker and slapping him in the face, and like Taker sits back up and gets him in the choke. It's just it's a really 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 fun match. Very strong stuff. One of Taker's better matches of his career up to this point.
Yeah.
And other than the Brett matches, probably Diesel's best singles match.
It's
The tag. A couple of tags with Sean are real good, but
yeah, especially the one with Razor and
Action Zone,
Kid.
yeah,
Yeah, that match is really good.
yeah, Razor 1 2 3,
Um,
yeah, that match
yeah.
outstanding.
It's another case though of like I'll die on the hill, man. Diesel
He has
was
some Razor
pretty good
matches
in
that are
his
good
time.
too. Sorry, I was just
He's
thinking he has some Razor
no,
matches.
he's I kind of said the last episode we did. I said this like at this point in time he has the better match catalog of him and Taker. Like
Yeah,
Diesel was when he was Diesel, I think he was pretty good. I really
right,
do.
right.
Obviously things he's
There were
very
times
much
when he worked
changed.
super hard in WCW,
Yeah,
and you could
times.
tell, and he'd have like a fun match.
Yeah, there were times.
It depended on who it depended on if it was somebody he respected or wanted to help or
Yeah,
whatever, depending on what his mood was.
he
Or,
was
if he was,
definitely not.
sober, but
He was not incompetent. Is the point,
right,
right? He was
right.
certainly not incompetent. He was a guy whose motivation went up there. He was not incompetent. Um, okay, by the way, I've mentioned this video before, but for those of you who haven't seen it, there's a great DVD or whatever the hell kayfabe commentaries where Kevin Nash books the WWF if him and Razor don't leave. And in about 5 minutes, he explains that maybe he should have beat The Undertaker, and it is fucking awesome. He's like, but then again, that kills the streak. Anyway, just move on.
That rules.
Yeah, it's great. So anyway, Mania opens with the Camp Cornette trios. There's Vader is on Camp Cornette's team, of course, which is where he's going to stay for the next little bit. Yoko is a babyface on the opposing team. A kind of a unique WrestleMania matchup. It feels like you look at the lineup; it's an interesting one. What did you think of the opening match with the Camp Cornette guys?
Yeah,
Yoko.
the
Okay.
lineup is neat. I think the match is disappointing.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
want it to be better than that. Like, Owen should have been in the match a little bit more than he was. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
Owen was solid, but like, I don't know. It was just disappointing. But I mean, in terms of like the matchup itself, it looks good on paper.
And it feels kind of weird in this time play in this setting, right?
Yes, yes, it does.
Which I think shows in the quality of it, as you kind of referenced. How's Yoko coming along here as a babyface? He's not got long left as a kind of full time. What's happening?
He's still a good worker. I think clearly his health his
Yeah,
physical limitations are really really becoming a problem at this point.
such a shame.
Yep.
Such a shame. He's so naturally gifted and smooth in there. It's a shame.
Mhm.
Vader. Any update on how Vader? Obviously, we know how this run is going to go. We know where we're going to end up in a few months. How's he looking so far? This is obviously his first WrestleMania. Where are we at with Vader?
Um, he's already kind of feels like a backdrop.
Yeah.
They kind of get back on track in the spring, in summer. Some
Mm-hmm.
Shawn match happens. I
Yeah.
actually liked Vader '97. I think he has several good matches, like really good matches.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's incredible in the Final Four match.
Yes,
He's
he is.
bleeding, his eyes bleeding, and he's brawling with Taker, and like he's just mad and like fucking rules.
Yeah.
He's basically like New Japan-esque Vader in that match, which is
Yeah.
like the
It's
only
just.
time you ever see like New Japan Vader
Yeah.
in WWF, other than maybe. And then like he has the Shamrock match where you kind of see like UWFI Vader and a fucking rules,
Mm-hmm.
like but he has stuff like with Owen, where you kind of get like the WCW Vader and stuff, but he never. And even the Shawn match is really good, where you kind of get
It
the
is.
classic
Yeah.
Vader until Shawn decides to pitch a fit,
It's
which I
such a
think
shame because it is
I
good.
think they kept that in on the network
Yes, I believe so.
just as like a thing, like
Yeah.
because for a while there they used to edit it, I think, but now I don't think they do because it's part of the Shawn
It's
Michaels
this
story now.
the law.
Yeah,
The
the
Shawn
lore.
Michaels law.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's flashes, man. It's the book and it's the presentation. It just doesn't feel quite right.
Right.
It's a shame. How was WrestleMania overall, Oracle?
It was a fun show. I enjoyed it. They had a really strong build. I think it maybe just lived up to the build, at least in terms of overall presentation. It probably did.
Mm-hmm.
Execution, maybe not entirely, but
Yeah.
I think it was a strong show overall.
It was. Was it helped at all by the fact that you watched it alongside uncensored? As
Yeah,
the
yeah, it helps when you watch things chronologically too, just in general.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely it does. I've saved the what at the time is not a big story, but ends up being the biggest story for last in WWF world here. Steve Austin, now Stone Cold, is part of his moniker. Of course, this is one of those great deals, and this is the beauty of doing stuff like this, where we know what that will eventually mean. How kind of throwaway is it here at day one, Oracle? Where are we at with this process?
The Savio matches are fun,
Oh hell yeah, yeah.
but he's just those matches are good because they beat the tar out of each other and they pace them well, and it's just you can tell Austin takes pride in how he puts his matches together and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just fun to watch. Savio's a really good baby face, but it just kind of he just shows up on Raw, and Vince is like, he's stone cold. He's got a stone cold heart.
Yep.
And then they start calling him Stone Cold Steve Austin and drop the Ringmaster, and Teddy DiBiase's still just sort of there, and
Couple
eventually,
more months.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But at least the
Well,
Savio feud's good. So
I guess it's like I'm trying to think. So obviously, King of the Ring's a big moment, but like the real big thing is when Brett decides to work with him.
Mhm.
That's the real game changer, right? Because then he
Mhm.
really
Well, in October they do that, and then like he does the Pillmanized angle. There's the great angle, and he's on
yeah
like Superstars, whatever it was, where he's in like the production area and he's like yelling at people and cussing
yeah
at them. And that's like the first angle. Really, even the Pillmanized angle is not even. I mean, it is, but it's really the angle where he's like in the.
mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the
Yeah
production where
yeah
he's like in the and he's like that's the first Stone Cold you
Stone
really
Cold
see. Yeah,
exactly.
and that's like a
We
few weeks before Survivor Series '96, I think.
we very quickly touched on the King of the Ring match they have. We'll get into some
Yeah,
of
the
the
Mirror
Miro
Austin
stuff.
matches are great. I've seen them before.
I also want to we talk about Miro being underrated. We've talked about this before. I think
Savio's good,
Savio Vega
man.
was just
He's
really
good.
good
He's a
pro
great. I
wrestler.
mean, dude, if you watch his Puerto Rico stuff, TNT
Yeah.
rules, man.
hmm The story behind Stone Cold, unless I'm mistaken, which I might be, was that he was thinking and his wife got him a tea, right? Was the story.
Yeah,
And she said, drink that before it goes stone cold. And that is really how they
yeah.
wandered into Stone Cold. I'm pretty
That's
sure
when he
that's the
was
story.
still. That's when he was dating the. Was it the British woman?
Yes, who was with
Because that's something that you Brits would say, right?
yes. What's God, we should know her name. Because she's around in world class, right?
Yes,
With Gino and oh shit. I don't know. Yes,
Jeannie
that's the
Adams.
story. There you go.
Well, the former Jeannie Adams
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah, that's the story. Drink that before it goes stone cold was the and that's I mean that's hilarious to think about how much money that moniker has has ended up resulting in. But none
Joe has frozen, but John Morant just threw the basketball at the camera.
good, very good, good
Not
play by
not
play,
on
very
purpose,
good,
but it just
very good.
happened to fly at the cameraman. Poor guy.
Internet's kicking the shit out of me here, pal. Anyway, Mania month. How was it for WWF Oracle?
Good month. Strong build to Mania, strong Mania. I thought it was a really good month.
There you go. Okay, it was a big month. One of the shorter historical Oracle. We covered everything, right? We had
We
some
did.
fun along the way. Oracle. Um, put a bow on March and give us a little preview of what's going on. I know you've watched a lot of April, so give us a little preview of what's ahead.
Uh, WWF TV starts to kind of get better.
Yeah.
WCW TV starts to kind of get worse in some ways. ECW's kind of stays you know, kind of stays the same. Couple big angles. Very famous angle in ECW that we will come upon. Involving I'll take them both. I'm hardcore.
Oh.
And so it's a big month. Every month is big in this period, and this has got Good Friends, Better Enemies, Sean and Diesel, Diesel's final outing, World Wrestling Federation.
Yep.
Which also has Vader and Razor's final outing. On TV. No pay-per-view in WCW, but the 429 Nitro, which I've not quite gotten to yet. I've got Good Friends, Better Enemies, and the 3 TVs to watch. And that'll be with April.
Mm-hmm.
Final Nitro will have a parking lot brawl, I believe, with Regal and Finley and Flair and Giant for the title.
Yeah.
Title switch, I believe.
Because I always forget Stampede is no more at this time, is it? See, it's
right.
gone.
Yeah. And ECW has a couple shows that I've already gotten through, and those are pretty big shows. So lots to talk about in April.
Looking forward to it, folks. Next week, next Thursday, it will not be the Historical Oracle. It will be the Grin Grappler, right?
Correct.
Us
Because
two, Bobby,
I will be live. Thompson Bowling Arena in Knoxville, Tennessee. For Bobby Lashley and Omos in a arm wrestling challenge.
Oh shit! Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Bianca Belair defending the Raw Women's Championship against Sonya Deville.
Factual. I hope you get I hope something really eventful happens.
I'm kind of thinking Becky comes out at the end of that show and attacks Bianca.
Yeah,
that's the event that we will be.
It'll be infinitely more awesome though. If they did a big angle with Bayley and they got juice and they kicked the shit out of each other and you did an emergency live stream.
Now you're trying to get me mad, so I don't do that.
You text shoot and say I need to go live now. Set me up for a solo Raw review, and I wake up the next day like, what the fuck happened? Anyway, next Thursday, the Grin Grappler, Dustin Rhodes, the 6 matches, folks. I'm going to try to. We have he and Steamboat against Arn and Larry. Him versus Vader from Clash late '94, right? Act 2 is the aforementioned Piper Backlot Brawl, as well as he and Booker versus Christian and Chris Jericho from December 02.
December 23rd, 2000.
December 23rd. That was exactly. You were correct. Your guess was right when you
that popped me.
That rules. I don't even know why I checked it. When I was writing it down, I was like, I don't even need to check this. He's obviously going to be right. Of course you were. And then Act 3 is him and Cody versus the Shield from Battleground, right?
Yeah, Roman and Seth from October.
Roman and Seth. And finally, Double or Nothing, the first AEW pay-per-view, first AEW show, Cody versus Dustin, which is obviously a very, very famous match. I think Dustin's going to be a really fun one. That'll be next Thursday. So Historical Oracle will be on that kind of bi-weekly schedule. We hope you join us for that. But before that, tomorrow, Late Night Grin, brother, we're back again. There will be no Bob O'Neill. We should make that clear. Not a false advertise. Bob is booked elsewhere. We wish him the best of luck on Fox. Obviously not SmackDown, Fox News. I'm talking about.
He'll be interviewing Hornswoggle.
You could have gone in way worse directions than that, so I appreciate it. Yes, Hornswoggle. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, Oracle. Any final words?
No. I enjoyed the show.
Fun.
I eliminated a bug in the process.
You did eliminated. Yes, that's what you did.
I apologize to the Bugs family. But yeah, this was a great show. I enjoyed it a lot. We'll move along. Once we get through May '96, that's the next. Finishing '95 was my first hump. Now I'm May '96, man. I've run through some roadblocks and stuff, and I've got a busy schedule, but we're gonna get there. Multitasking is your friend.
Yeah, well, it sure is yours. I can't speak for yourself on that one, but yes, indeed. Doing a hell of a job. We're having a lot of fun with this. We hope you are too. If you missed it, last week's Divas Deep Dive show was awesome. Also with Oracle and Jay Shell, which is
we will bring that back sometime in May.
that will kind of it's different.
Kind of busy time, but like I said, that'll be back. We've got our 3 matches set for that.
Critics are calling you guys the best duo on the Late Night Grin. Did you see that?
I'm hearing this. This.
Critics are calling you. It's interesting, Critics, we know how I feel about critics. But no, anyway, folks, this has been a lot of fun. We hope to see you tomorrow night for Late Night Grin. Please show some love to the Wrestle Purist YouTube channel where we made our debut earlier tonight, and I was on there for it was like 2-hour show. So I'm gonna be on there a bunch too. There's a whole lot coming up. Many shows. We even just did a boxing pod, Jack Crosby and I. So much to catch up on, much to enjoy. But in the meantime, enjoy this outro, folks. All hell.